Chris, thanks so very, very much. You all have one very effective leader, modern collaborative leader in Chris Abley. I mean, I work with a nonprofit that's a smart cities collaborative all around the country, and there are very few mayors or county executives that have had the guts to jump into a problem as intractable as chronic homelessness and actually measure performance, call us to our higher selves, and actually do the job. So Chris, for that and for creating jobs in Milwaukee, thank you for your leadership and your practice. Are you fired up?
Yeah!
Ready to go?
Yeah!
It is awesome to be in Waukesha County. It's so awesome I'm going to be here tonight and tomorrow as well. And I really want to thank your terrific, dynamic, insightful, effective, youngest, kicking asses county chair in all of Wisconsin. Matt, thanks for your leadership, and also thanks for the kindness of your invitation. And thank you also for realizing that all of us have a responsibility to lift up the next generation of leaders. Perhaps we've gotten away from that a little bit as a party, but we're getting back to it, and we're going to make up for lost time. It's also a great honor to have been here earlier with the woman that you are going to re-elect as your U.S. Senator, Tammy Baldwin. And I think she's going to be back tomorrow too, after flitting around and doing the things that we expect good senators to do when they're getting re-elected. But also awesome to be here with Jason Ray and Kathy Myers, Randy Bryce, Mandela Barnes, so many other distinguished elected officials from across your state. This year, the Wisconsin Democratic Party has filed more candidates to contest more offices than we have here in about 20 or 30 years. How about that? And I know that one of the things that Matt was so proud of was that in the so-called nonpartisan races, you targeted 11 of them, and you actually won 7 of them. That's a pretty good percentage. Including a member of the school board that I see proudly clapping back there enthusiastically, but in a totally nonpartisan way. So look, there is a big change coming this fall. And I've had the pleasure to be in and the honor really, to be in 24 different states over the course of the last year, and to campaign on behalf of 39 plus county candidates who are running for state senate, state house, and other local elections. And I'll tell you what, these are some really fine men and women bringing a tremendous amount to the public arena, and the likes of which we haven't seen for years and years and years. Say what you will about Donald Trump. He has been the best candidate recruitment tool this party has had in a long time. And yes, I just called him a tool. So look, gang, as a Democrat like you, I'm a big believer in the truth that a program should end on the same day it begins. But I wanted to kind of focus us as we wrap up tonight. And this has been an awesome night. Best attendance you've ever had at this, Matt. And thank you. All of you deserve a lot of credit for that. We've got to expand our circle, not contract it. I'm tired of fighting from the perimeter as a Democratic Party. We need to grow this circle. And this is the year to do it. The question for us to answer in Wisconsin is really the question that people in every state have to answer. And it is this. And the time to call this question is now, not 2020, it's 2018. 36 different governors' races up, 36 different state legislators, legislative bodies up. And the question is this: will we make ourselves a stronger, more generous, and more compassionate nation? with opportunity for all? Or will we allow ourselves to become something less? That's really the question on the table. You know, great countries sometimes make really bad mistakes. Good people correct those mistakes quickly. And that's what we have the ability to do this year. Every state's needed, every person's needed. So let me share with you some good news from different states around our country. You ready for some good news?
Yeah.
All right, turn to your neighbor to the right. Say, I'm ready for some good news. Go ahead. Now turn to your neighbor to the left. Say, I'm ready for some good news. Here's the good news. Pastor brings a lot of AME services, so that's where this was inspired from. Stephanie Hanson's state senate win in Delaware. Kevin Kavanaugh's huge margin of victory several months ago in New Hampshire State Senate. Michael Brooks, Karen Gaddis, Allison Ickley Freeman, elections in Oklahoma House and Senate. Oklahoma, the state with the largest margin for Donald Trump in the country. And then today, Margaret Good and Javier Fernandez just a couple weeks ago in Florida. Caleb Frostman with a big state. So what do all of those people have in common? Democrats. Not just Democrats. They're winning Democrats. They are winning Democrats. And you know what each of them has told me? I haven't yet had the honor to meet Senator DeBee Frostman. But as I've visited each of these states, I've asked people, you know, what are you hearing? What are people saying on the doors? What are you saying? And what they've told me is this. Martin, I learned after like the first 3 or 4 doors, never ever mention Donald Trump. Right. People's economic anxieties, their ability to earn a decent living, pay their bills, give their kids a better life, just as high as they were 2 years ago. But they're tired of hearing about Donald Trump. Even the people that voted for him won't apologize for voting for him, don't want to hear about Donald Trump. We don't need to talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a self-basting turkey. Each of these candidates won by like 15 or 20-point margins, better than anybody would have predicted before Donald Trump. And what all of them have told me is that they talk about the kitchen table issues, how to send kids to college, make sure you can afford your health care, what sort of opportunities are our kids going to have, will they be better than the ones our parents and grandparents gave to us. So look, tonight let's face the work ahead of us, and let's do it with the joy that comes from knowing that our country has never needed us more than our country needs us right now. And also with the commitment that comes from understanding that we must win back our states if we are going to save the United States. You know, ever since the attacks of 9/11, there's been a lot of talk about resiliency. How do we make ourselves resilient? Well, look, the United States is way ahead of the curve in terms of political resiliency. When the national government is broken, we proceed as states. How many of us ever thought we'd make as much progress as we did on marriage equality? It was state after state after state after state, and then the federal government. So we're a resilient people. We march forward together, yes, but sometimes states need to lead the way. And that's what we need to do now. Let me say one other thing before I launch fully here, and that is this. I think all of us, and Chris said it, we need to remember that the most important thing we need to do right now is not to talk about what we're against, but what we are for as a people. And what our candidates are finding when they knock on doors is actually our Republican brothers and sisters are for a lot of the same things. We all want the same things. And we pray that one day the Republican Party will return to its true self. We need the Republican Party. It would be awesome if the Republican Party would come back, the party of Lincoln. I don't know about you, but I think this eagle flies best when its left and right wings are both working. Right now, the right wing's broken. And we need to fly a course and bring us forward. So why are we Democrats? Why are we Democrats? We are Democrats because of the powerful beliefs that unite us. Our belief in the dignity of every person. Our belief in the common good that we share and that we have a responsibility to advance. Our understanding that we are all in this together and that we need to help each other if we're going to succeed. And our understanding that our economy is not money, it is people. It is all of our people. And from those powerful beliefs form and flow our democratic mission. It is to strengthen and grow the ranks of an inclusively diverse and more upwardly mobile middle class, to improve public safety and public education in every part of our country, and to expand opportunity. The opportunity to learn and to earn and to enjoy the health of the people we love and the other living systems of this earth that we and our children and grandchildren need in order to live and thrive, to be healthy and survive. Look, now I will grant you this first year, 5 months and 21 days of the Trump administration have been pretty exhausting, haven't they?
Yeah.
This administration is malice tempered only by incompetence. Every new day brings new revelations about secret dealings with the Russians. Longtime Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, I think, was sent to prison today. I'm from Baltimore at home. I think we would call that chutzpah, to be awaiting trial on colluding with Russians, and then to be thrown in jail pre-trial for colluding with Russians and other foreign actors in order to obstruct justice. Look, man, these guys aren't modeling the founding fathers. They're modeling the Godfather. I used to say that watching this presidency, Chris, was metaphorically like watching 24/7 political pornography. But now it's not just metaphorical, it's literal. Herbert Hoover once promised a chicken in every pot. These guys are promising a fox in every hen house. How many of you are teachers here? We have some teachers? Donald Trump's Federal Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. God bless her heart. Has never spent a day working in public education. Seems hell-bent on defunding public education by spending taxpayer dollars on private charter schools. And it would seem, watching it in your own state, right, that less education for all seems to become a new plank in the party of Donald Trump and Scott Walker. Get this. Under Scott Walker, compared to other states like Minnesota, y'all suffering from some state envy?
Yes.
Under Scott Walker, compared to other states like Minnesota, job creation is down, wages are down, schools are down, environmental protection is down. The only thing that's up since Scott Walker became governor is big tax giveaways to the biggest corporations. Welcome to Wisconsin, a subsidiary of Koch Industries. You all deserve better than that. I mean, you are such a great and leading state. I mean, the things that you have done, not only for the labor movement, for the cause of America's rising middle class. I mean, gee, the knees, the Green Bay Packers, the NFL team to be controlled and owned by the people. You deserve better. But right now you're under this sort of like tyranny of the super majority, right? It's like something out of the Federalist Papers, and the tyranny of the supermajority has tried to suppress voting rights, even tried to keep the last special elections from happening, right? Tyranny of the supermajority here in Wisconsin has tried to cut education funding to the bone, tried to deny your kids the right, the ability to make themselves winners in this changing economy. But I want you to repeat after me, Waukesha. 15 in the House.
15 in the House.
2 more in the Senate.
2 more in the Senate.
That's what you need to do. That's what you need to flip in the House. That's what you need to flip. Actually, 1 more in the Senate. You already had 1 the other night. You need just 2 more in the Senate. That's what you need to do to break the tyranny of the supermajority. So fear not, Wisconsin, and believe. Darkness makes a great canvas. Darkness makes a great canvas. And there's a goodness within our country, and it cannot be eclipsed for long. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. If you ever have doubts about where your country's headed, and you would have to be a pretty unthinking person not to have those doubts from time to time these days. But if you ever have doubts, talk to our young people under 30. Because you will rarely find among them young people that want to deny that climate change is real or think their nation shouldn't do more about it. You will rarely find young people under 30 that want to deny rights to gay couples or their kids or bash new American immigrants. And you will rarely find young people, especially if they have to attend school in classrooms, who think the answer to guns in schools is to put more guns in schools. You see, you and I are part of a living, self-creating mystery. And that mystery is called the United States of America. But the promise that's at the heart of that mystery is actually very real and a very concrete thing, and it is this. It is that if you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to get ahead. Not just for yourself, but for your kids, for your family. You know, in another period of rapid industrial change and rising income inequality, a president by the name of Teddy Roosevelt, and I know, a Republican president, said it well. He said, our republic has no justification unless it is a genuine democracy. A democracy economically as well as politically. A democracy in which there is a real and sincere effort to realize the ideal of economic opportunity for all. From the depths of the Great Recession, our country achieved the longest stretch of consecutive monthly job growth since 1932, thanks to the Democratic leadership of President Barack Obama. And that job growth legacy has, with only a couple of breaks, continued up until now. And yet, the number of white male suicides in the United States of America has never been higher. Why? You know, Anthony Bourdain is one name that all of us know, but there are tens of thousands more. And I'm willing to bet in this room, many of us know someone, family member, friend, who we've lost because of suicide, opioid addiction. Why? That, my friends, my fellow Americans, is the economic, the spiritual, the moral, and the political question of our times. You know, Bruce Springsteen, the great poet laureate of the American dream, once asked in the song The River, is a dream a lie if it don't come true? Or is it something worse? The truth is, our jobs recovery in these times of rapid economic change has been very, very uneven. It's been uneven geographically. It has been uneven across the skills and education levels of our people. Lots of us have been left behind. There was no jobs recovery for those of us with a high school diploma or less. And you know what? When people feel and fear that their country no longer works for them, voting becomes merely an act of protest. Fear that I'm becoming worth less. Fear that my children's lives will be worth less. So look, we've got work to do. But the truth remains, you cannot create jobs by concentrating wealth in the hands of the few. You cannot build up the middle class by holding down wages, and you cannot increase the well-being of Americans by pushing 23 million people off of health care rolls. We've got work to do. Our diversity is our greatest strength. We are all in this together, and yes, if we help each other, we're actually going to succeed. We do not have to take this like a bunch of passive rabbits who sit back and think that people like Scott Walker, Donald Trump, and the Koch brothers are free to turn our economy and our country into a place of the few, by the few, and for the few. Hell no. Our economy is not money, it's people. It's all of our people. And the more our people learn, the more our people earn. The more our people earn, the more our people spend. The more our economy grows in a positive and life-affirming cycles, more inclusively. But right now, our world, our whole world, not just the United States, is fast moving into a third industrial revolution. A coming together of new technologies in energy, transportation, and communications. And that is rapidly creating, changing economies the world over. The fuel of the first industrial revolution, right, was coal, the locomotive, and the telegraph. The second industrial revolution was oil, the car, the telephone. And in this third industrial revolution, one that we have planted the seeds of through our prior victories, the fuel is renewable energy. It is about autonomous vehicles, and it is about the Internet of Things. And yes, some types of jobs are going to be lost, but new types of jobs are going to be created. And lots of people could get hurt if we don't have a government that's on our side. You know, our country came out big winners in the last two industrial revolutions. And we didn't do it by trying to stamp the brakes on change, pretend it wasn't happening, build walls around our country, pretend we're an island. Hell no. You know, we faced our challenges square on. And the question is, do we still have the courage and the guts and the grit to do that? I think we do. Think about your parents and grandparents. Close your eyes for a second if it helps you. You know, they had challenges in their times. They didn't understand entirely the future. But they did understand some powerful American truths. And they were these. The stronger we make our country, the more our country can give back to us and to our children and to our grandchildren. As Americans, we don't cower in the face of change. We actually anticipate it. We shift our sails, we harness it, we make it ours. And unlike the Trump administration, we Democrats actually believe that our government should work. Yeah. They should actually work. What are we for? We're for a government that actually works, that educates our kids at higher and better levels. As Chris kindly mentioned, when I led my own state as governor through a recession, we achieved the highest median income in the country, faster rate of job growth than our neighbors, #1 public schools in America for several years in a row. And we didn't do it by disparaging our teachers. We did it by investing more in our schools and treating our teachers like professionals. So said John Kennedy, so say we all. So let's make our children winners in this changing economy by investing in a quality education for every kid in Wisconsin. Climate change is real, and it is also the greatest business opportunity that has come to the United States of America in 100 years. So let's call it what it is for all it is. We can win this third industrial revolution, and a big part of winning it is to move our country to a 100% renewable energy grid by 2050. And yes, let's make the minimum wage a living wage again. marriage a gateway to opportunity instead of a trap door
Yes.
to a lifetime. And let's make it easier for people to join labor unions and bargain collectively. Comprehensive immigration reform and doing so in our country is not the barbaric fence. It is not internment camps for immigrant children. It is the Statue of Liberty. These are the choices, right? These are the choices that make for a stronger and growing middle class. You know what? In Europe, China, other places, they're putting together plans as to how to make their children winners in this third industrial revolution. We're heading into this period of change, way up the rungs of the ladder ahead of this country, and yet we're looking at the past. We're wallowing in fear. These are the actions that create opportunity for all. And it's not one of these things, it's all of these things at the same time. You know what? Our country is not some bankrupt hotel chain that we inherited from our daddy. That it is somehow our birthright to drive into the ground and squeeze every last dollar out of. Oh no. Our country remains a very large and powerful idea. Large enough, powerful enough, and strong enough to carry the hopes and dreams that all of us have for our kids and our grandkids. You know, in 1788, Alexander Hamilton warned that one day our country would be saddled with a candidate who was, and I quote, ambitious, avaricious, and desperate. One who would possess for a time the people's confidence more than he deserved it. And what was Hamilton's advice? In one word, withstand. Withstand the temporary delusion. Hold tight to your public institutions and laws and withstand the temporary delusion. You know, honestly, we have allowed our national party to become weak. But we can make it strong again. We've lost more governor's races, more state legislatures over the last 10 years than any time in modern history. But we can turn that around this year. In fact, this is the best year to do it. Because it's not how low you go, it is how high you bounce. 36 governor's races. Hundreds and hundreds of state legislative races. To govern the United States again, we must win back our states again. So don't give up on your neighbors. Wisconsin is really, really important. You know, for all the social media stuff and technology and digital and all of that jazz, hey man, we meet each other face to face as a people. And share the truth with them. Keep inviting them back to this table of democracy that we still share. And if they voted for Donald Trump before and they're still not disappointed, don't give up on them, because they soon will be disappointed. Final story. True story. Baltimore, September 11, 1814. The city of Washington has been burned to the ground. And looking to our south, we could see the red glow coming up over the horizon at night from those flames. And we knew that next they were coming for us. The British general, after burning Washington, declared, I'm going to march on Baltimore. I'm going to dine there. because even then we had great restaurants. And then he said, I'm going to burn Baltimore to the ground. But instead of running away from the shock and awe force of its day, the people of Baltimore dug trenches. We had our own fort out there at Fort McHenry. We sunk the hulls, the livelihoods of many of the merchants of Baltimore, those ships, chained them together across the harbor to block their path. And get this, 1 out of 5 of us were African American people in a still as yet very imperfect country. 50% of us were immigrants, or the sons and daughters of immigrants. And after a 26-hour bombardment, against which we held strong, when Francis Scott Key peered through the mist, expecting, because of the silence of the guns, to see a white surrender flag go up over the fort. Instead, when he looked out there, what he saw was this giant 32 by 40-foot Star-Spangled Banner, which in a tremendous act of revolutionary chutzpah had been sewn together and commissioned especially in anticipation of this moment. We now know from historic records that that giant Star-Spangled Banner was sewn together by black and white hands, because in the home of Mary Pinkersgill, the seamstress, was listed an indentured African-American servant girl named Grace Wisher. Black and white hands. Hands of mercy. Hands of grace. And I will submit to you that the thread that held that banner together then is the same thread that holds us together even now. And it is the thread of human dignity, of neighbor helping neighbor. That strong thread that tells us we're all in this together, and we have to help each other if we're going to succeed. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? There's absolutely nothing unpatriotic about believing that your own home place and your own state is the most important part of your nation at this moment of trial, because it is. So when you're out there working to win back your own state here in Wisconsin, I want you to know that you're winning back the most important part of your country, and I want you to act like it. Because there's a goodness within our nation. And we see it in the eyes of our children, but right now what we have to do is look for it in the eyes of our neighbors. Call it forward for the future of the country that we carry in our hearts. It's time to save our democracy. It's time to make our children winners in the changing economy. God bless all of you. God bless Wisconsin. God bless the United States of America in the days to come.